Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Management Diaries. I'm your host, Denile Doyle. This is MHN's Property Management Podcast, where we get into the real side of property management, from what's working in leasing and maintenance, to the resident experience, to leadership lessons, business strategy, and everything in between. Maintenance teams today are carrying so much responsibility more than before, right? Residents, they want faster service. There are just more things that require maintenance, more amenities. Buildings have more features. Um, and it's just hard to find skilled technicians. That also is getting harder. So not only is it about hiring more people in the field, but even more importantly, it's building those teams and retaining employees who want to grow and who will perform at a high level. So today I'm joined by two leaders who play a key role in shaping maintenance strategy at their organizations. I have Cerwin Thompson. He's the vice president of facilities at RPM Living, and Avery Rouse, who's the regional maintenance director at the Breeden Company. And we're going to talk today about what they're both seeing in the field, what approach they're taking to retaining talent, and just what the industry should be thinking about, or in some cases rethinking when it comes to solving the talent shortage. Kerwin, Avery, glad to have you both here. Thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us, Denile.
Great. I'm so happy you both came on today. Kerwin, I want to start with you. If you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about your role at RPM Living and the teams you oversee.
All right. Well, my name is Cerwin Thompson. I'm the vice president of facilities with RPM Living. I have been actually just hit my 8 years with RPM Living. When I started off, we were really small. Now we're about fourth in the nation on third-party management. I oversee the facility side, so I have a corporate team of about 62 people under me, and I have a facility side with under them you have capital improvements team that does all the capital work, large scale property repaints and interior renovations, any large scale capital. Then I also have a corporate team of facilities guys that help monitor the properties for inspections, and then also help the maintenance guys on site with their expertise and just knowledge so they can effectively run their properties.
Amazing. Thank you. Avery, I'd love to hear from you too. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role at Breeden?
I'm Avery Rouse. I'm a regional maintenance director with the Breeden Company. I oversee a dozen communities throughout the Hampton Roads in Virginia. I oversee over 30 maintenance personnel, and my job pretty much is making sure that the assets are maintained at all time and implement training and just be the support that's needed.
Yeah, sounds like you both have a lot of people that you're overseeing and, obviously that you're also trying to grow and develop and retain, right? When we think about the maintenance workforce, right, in 2026, if you had to sum it up in one word or phrase, what would it be?
I'll go first. Struggling. That's it. Struggling just wholeheartedly. We're having a tough time finding qualified individuals to come work. Unfortunately, the older guys that have been in the industry, they're kind of phasing out, retiring, and the younger guys that are coming in, they're lacking the skill, just to do the job, the basic understanding of doing the job, and there's the wherewithal to work. They're just, they have a little lazy spirit. Not all of them, but a lot of them, they don't really understand the true value of hard work. So I would say it's just a sum that we're struggling to find qualified candidates.
I would say stretched thin, but still showing up. You know, I see it day in, day out. And sometimes I feel bad for them because, like Kerwin said, a lot of the older, old school generation is phasing out, and this new school generation, I think we have to learn to work with them in a certain way because they're not like it was when we first started out, far as breaks, and really, I hate to say it, common sense. A lot of
Yeah.
things that we think is common sense is not common sense to them, but they're still showing up, so, that's half the battle, showing up. I can work with you as long as you continue to come to work and have a will do attitude or can do attitude, should I say.
No, Avery's right there with that. It's that attitude there. If you have somebody who's willing to come to work and have a great attitude, we can work from that all day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I love that. Both great answers, right? I love your point about the attitude. Because if you don't have the attitude, then it kind of makes it a lot harder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is a great place for us to start. Now, Cerwin, I want to ask you, struggling, right? You said, it's just hard finding um people with a skill set, right? It's hard to find that. And then also with people leaving as they kind of, get into their older years. So you're obviously seeing that this is a challenge. Hiring is a challenge, right? How have you had to adjust your approach?
So the way what we do here, we have a great talent acquisition team that we work and partner with on a day-to-day basis across the nation. And we sat down with them and said, how do we attract individuals to come work at RPM Living? So what we started to do, we started to partner with those trade schools, and then county workforces, and then those higher trade schools that you actually go to school for. So locally, we have a team called Skill Point Alliance that we partner with real well. We partner with Goodwill, so they kind of teach some of the skills that we're looking for. So they'll give them their EPA, then they'll work on electrical. So what we do is my corporate team will go and speak to those team members, just telling them about the multifamily industry, because a lot of people don't know anything about our industry, as we know. Avery can attest. Being in multifamily is kind of our own little niche, our own little market. And you try to explain what we do, people like have no clue. So we go out there and explain to them, is like, this is another avenue, this is another career choice that you can make, and this is how we can help you. So we try to do that so we can attract new talent to the market that have some sort of skill. Because if they're learning how to get their EPA, they're understanding HVAC, and then also if they're working with electrical, well, they're understanding that also. But we're telling them, hey, you come work with us. We can teach you plumbing, painting, carpentry, a whole host of things that we do in multifamily that hopefully can attract new people. And it's been successful for us in going that path.
Okay, that sounds like it's a good new avenue that you've really found success in. Avery, what about you? Or how does that compare to what you're seeing?
Piggyback what Kerwin said. A lot of job fairs. I know I do a lot of high school job fairs. Stand in the multifamily community, as far as the NAAs, FAMA, which we have down here, and just talking to people, just being able to be familiar, and let them see, oh wow. Because most times when I talk to them and I tell them what I do, and they be like, oh wow, you in corporate? I'm like, yeah, and I tell them my background, like where I started from, and trying to get maintenance and trying to educate them on maintenance is, like you said, our own niche. I think maintenance is just as important as being a doctor or, being a policeman or being a teacher, because, we're in people's personal spaces, and if you take this job, seriously, you can become Kerwin, vice president, you can become myself as a regional and move up and making a career path. But, a lot of maintenance people, come in and they don't take it as seriously, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to educate them on that end.
You're really about the education, right? Because they're not familiar with the industry, multifamily as much, or even kind of like you said, they like, you're in corporate, like how does that work?
They don't
Um,
understand. I mean, when we say they don't really understand, I mean, I have a bunch of friends. I'm good friends, and they still don't know what I do. And I can explain it to them blue in the face, and they have no clue. When you
Right.
say you're in multifamily, they're like, "What?" It's like, "What's multifamily?" Apartment complexes. We manage apartment complexes. And they're like, "So what do you do?" And then you try to explain it, and it just goes right over their head. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know." You know?
No, I can relate to that. It's like, saying I'm a commercial real estate journalist and it's it's hard. They don't, they don't really understand. Oh, so can you tell me like how to find an apartment? It's like, oh, so
Uh,
education is really important.
yes.
Okay, so hiring, of course, is one piece of the puzzle, right? And finding the talent is, well, obviously you need that. You have to start there. You have to start with finding the talent and with recruiting people. Um, Avery, what are you seeing when it comes to like some of the ways that it gets a little more complicated with the retaining part, right? So, what are some because earlier on when I asked you like the word or phrase to kind of describe, you did mention stretched thin, right? So your teams are obviously they have, they're experiencing some of those kind of high pressure periods, right? And they're stretched thin. So then during those types of seasons, how do you, prevent burnout, right? Are there things that you've changed to improve their efficiency or just really to reduce their stress a bit?
Well, I try to be not just a resource, but someone that they feel comfortable with in my region in particular that they can reach out to. Because as we know, maintenance, I know I was like this. Sometimes it's hard to ask for help. It's like I don't want them to think that I don't know this much, or I don't want them to think that I'm not working. So I just will take on all this workload by myself, and they wind up failing because they don't ask for help. So what I wound up doing is kind of like making like a mentorship with my region, in particular my supervisors, because I feel like the supervisors should be able to do that for their techs, and there are people that's below them. And I try to make sure that they understand that, I'm here for them. I have meetings, I try to have property training where we'll go to one property that's more of a focused property, and everybody go there for training. So if I got a property that has several, tickets, outstanding, that's gonna be a training exercise. We're gonna go there, we're gonna learn how to tackle those tickets and how to, do our daily operation to get those tickets down. And I think that has helped a lot, because now I have a group chat where they're asking more questions. Hey, I got this going on, or anybody available this day, and I see them becoming more of a team, not just a property, but a region, more of a team to help each other out.
Wow, so you really do make it so that they're not afraid to say when they need help, right? Because you don't want them to be like you said, if they're just taking on too much in order to not ask for help, but then it just lowers their efficiency, then that kind of like defeats the purpose, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you really are trying to be that kind of a leader, right? Like, someone that they can come to and also like you mentioned about like the group trainings or just like trying to help everyone, kind of learn how to do something new, right? Or, giving them that exposure, right? So that I think maybe that goes back to like them being confident, in doing things, in handling certain tickets that come up later, and then it also is expanding their knowledge, right?
Right. You want to be relatable, you want them to feel comfortable with you, to the point where you're not looked at as a corporate figure. Sometimes honestly, I don't like mentioning my title. We go places, as a team or events, and I'm like, I'm a maintenance person because I don't feel like I'm better than anyone, and that's how I treat my staff. And I think that helps so much because a lot of we switch regions here and there, and I notice when I get a new region, the supervisor's kind of all standing. It's like, scared for me to come to your property. I'm like, you don't have to be scared. Like I don't know it all for one. You know, I'm not expecting you to know it all, but I do expect you to ask questions. I do expect you to know when to ask, questions. And once again, I think that have helped people to, you know, look at me in a peer versus a corporate figure, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a great word you used, relatable, right? That you're being relatable so that they are comfortable approaching you. And I think that will really be the reason, even when they're stretched thin, that they will keep showing up, right? It's that you're making that space really safe for them. You can ask questions. You don't have to know everything. I don't know everything. So I love that you kind of, take that approach as yes, I'm the maintenance director, regional director, but I'm also a peer, right?
Right.
Kerwin, what about like from your leadership perspective, how do you tell when someone, on your team might be, disengaging or thinking about leaving? Like, how do you see that? How do you respond to that when you see that? Is that something you've
Well,
seen?
well, the way what we kind of do here, we as you know, probably most places, maintenance is probably the highest turnover, when it comes to on-site, unfortunately. And so we started looking at different ways to identify why are they turning over. So one, you got to look at pay. Maintenance guys, they don't play with their money. They're all about their money. They want to make sure the check is right. So we established, okay, are they getting the right pay range that they're needed to do the job? Because for years we know, and Avery probably can attest to this, maintenance guys weren't paid like they needed to be paid. Now we're starting to see that wage gap being caught up. So now we established the pay. Next, it's about, okay, pay's all good. What else is a maintenance guy? It's about experience. You know, we got to make maintenance guys want to feel like they're treated like they're part of the family. They're just not the back of the house, the outside. You just go take care of that. So we got to clean up the experience for them and make them feel wanted. They make them feel valuable because we know they're just as valuable as anybody else on that site, and COVID proved that when we shut down the offices, who was still running tickets and who was doing that was the maintenance guys outside there. So we got to clean up their experience, and we started cleaning up the experience so they can feel like they're part of the team. And then next, training, got to train them, because the skill is not there. So what kind of training that we can give them that they can help themselves, they can figure out stuff that they can feel, oh, I am getting better in this area here and there. And just like Avery said, relatable, got to be relatable. I'm the same way. My facilities team, my corporate facilities team, everybody on my team, myself included, we have worked on site. That's kind of a criteria. You come on my corporate team, we kind of tend to promote from within, from a service manager up to a regional maintenance manager. I started as a porter way back when. I'm not going to age myself, but I did. you know, and when I go on site, just like Avery, they'll be like, "Hey," I said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm just regular old Joe. I'm a maintenance man, just like you. I'll pick up trash. I'm sitting there joking with them, talking to them. I'm trying to make
Mhm.
them feel at home. When you see me, don't be, hey, I'm coming to ask you, what can I do better? What can my team bring to you? What do you want to see? I'm not trying to bust chops or anything like that because I don't want them to feel that way. And I keep telling them, one day I want you guys to be in my spot. I'm not going to be here forever. So I want you guys to be able to have the aspirations to get to where I am. So that's what we try to do here, and myself included, because maintenance guys, they're smart guys, they're good people. They just want to feel wanted, and they want to feel appreciated. So that's our job, is to make them feel that way.
Yeah, I'm hearing, right, Kerwin, you're echoing kind of what Avery said, right? Making them feel valued and appreciated. And everybody wants that, right? That's like, you really want to have that in in any role that you're in. And it's good to know that you realize that that's so valuable for your teams, right? That you're actually communicating it with them. You're really reminding them, like, don't think about me in that way. Like, I'm really here to help you, and I want to develop you, right? I want you to continue to grow. Kerwin, you said eventually you'll be stepping into a role, at this level. So so it sounds like there's definitely that encouragement element, right? And that supportive element that that you both are including in, the way that you approach your leadership. Avery, when we're thinking about, right, like growth and development, not everyone grows at the same pace, right? Not everyone's going to pick up, certain skills as quickly. Someone may pick up something more quickly than someone else, right? So you have technicians, I'm sure, that will advance more quickly, and you have some that it will be a little bit more slowly, that they'll be growing in their role. So what are the, I guess, like, the differentiating things that you see kind of between those two types, right? Like, what traits or what habits kind of let you know, okay, this person is really going to be, moving up or ready to advance, and I can really develop them, versus someone who needs a little bit more time.
Great question, by the way. It's to me, I think it's more or less of to be able to tell the difference and tell someone really wants it when you see someone showing up every day, asking questions, asking, hey, be the first one to step up when you need someone to go help out at another property, and seeing the smile on their face, being engaged in learning. So many times where we have training and say, HVAC training, and we're doing in-house training. We out in there, we showing them how to do compressors and things and such, and people sitting back. Everybody's sitting back, and we're like, "Come on up, come try it out." And it's the ones that I see actually comes up and not scared to try. And these supervisors, and then when I see that, when I get calls, hey, I got this going on, and I just need your advice on this. I love that. The numbers gonna tell. When I see someone, I got someone who's less skilled, property is always on point than someone who's more skilled, but property got 1,000 tickets. And I'm exaggerating on 1,000 tickets, but but and that you can tell the difference. So I'd rather have someone who want to learn. And that's who I kind of mentor. When I see some of my newbies, some of my new service managers, asking me, hey, when the next training, can we train on this? Or if you get a second, can you come walk my property with me? And that's who you can tell who's going to be great, versus people who's just there for a check. We all here for a check, but at the same time, this is my passion. And you can tell a difference from someone who has passion at what they do and someone who's there just for a check. And that tells a difference on where you're going to go.
Yeah, no, that's great, Avery. And I guess that really speaks to your leadership, right? That you're able to discern that from, within your teams, like, who has passion, and then just seeing, like, who's engaged both in learning and in their job, right? And then doing the work, right? It's not just so much of they're doing the work, they're going through the motions, but when they start calling you and they start asking for advice, when they're volunteering, right, that, is kind of like a signal to you that they also are passionate. And I imagine that's who you really are looking to say, okay, this is someone I want to develop.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kerwin, what are your thoughts on that?
So, like, just like Avery said, we're always looking for whoever's eager, whoever's willing to, assist and work compared to you. You can tell from the onset. And unfortunately, he's right. I mean, some guys are there just to pick up a paycheck. They don't want to do no extra. They're just getting by. And then you got those young guys who don't have the skill level, not even close, but their hustle, their drive, their just, wherewithal to get the job done because they want to be better. I can tell you, I hated being mediocre when I was on set. I wanted to make sure that I was always top, and I was always there to go help somebody else, assist somebody else, and make sure my stuff is done too at the same time. And that's where we tend to push the guys on site, and unfortunately the mediocre guys, like I said, having my team that's been maintenance guys on site, they kind of weed those guys out quickly because we know when they're messing around and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're just not giving it at all. So we kind of ride them a little bit to make sure, say, hey, this is the job. We expect high. When you come to RPM property, we want the same level of consistency from Class C all the way to Class A. It doesn't matter what kind of property you have. You have to give that effort. You just have to give that service to the clients. Like Avery said earlier, we need good people on site. We need people who are willing to work hard, come with a great attitude. And, so that's the way we kind of push people and help people. And anybody who's eager, if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. That's the way we operate.
You're going back to the resident, right? You're saying this is all about the service that's what we're here for, right? Is to really provide great service to residents. I'm going to ask you both about something that you've changed. It could be something small, but just something that you've changed recently that created a noticeable improvement across your teams that where you saw like, yes, this really, made a difference in this area.
The way that we train. So usually when we train, we have uh, the whole region, the whole company, supervisors come to our big room and train and this and that. So what I did starting late last year, I'm like, no, I talked to my guys. I'm like, I'm gonna do a smaller course, for my guys, and I did that. And honestly, I had majority of my team email me and my counterpart and say, "Oh my goodness, can we continue our training like this? I learned so much. I was able to ask questions without being so many people there. I was able to, take in more, and more in particular, like this last one we had was drywall. And drywall is to me basic 101, and supervisors they got away from it. They got away from doing basic drywall. So I had a drywall class. I did it, and I also had one of our companies that we use come in and help me out. And oh my goodness, now we saved so much money this past couple months with drywall. To the point where my boss is like, "I need y'all to get with Avery. How he doing his training now. And I think it's huge. To the point where we're having more people engage.
Yeah, I love that you changed your approach and you just, decided let's try scaling down the training and see, and it actually ended up really being something that made that noticeable improvement. Kerwin, what about you?
Well, again, I'm gonna sentiment exactly what Avery said. And, I'm getting to the point that we're the same person. Even though I guess we call ourselves twins. We're both 6'8", so
Right.
That's right. 6'8" twins today.
But he's right. Training. That's what we've dived into. Training. I mean, we have a great training partner on my team. Her name is Christy Dobbins. In the past 2 years, she has helped us develop in-house training. Because what we saw is the lack of the skill level. And so we're like, we got to get training. So to where now onboarding, the maintenance guys, when they start, they have 2 days of just training. Before they even do anything on site, they just got to go through training. To one, to get them acclimated with RPM. Everybody, we do maintenance the same across everywhere, but every company has just little variations of what their expectations are. So we want to get that maintenance guy acclimated to the way we do things here and our standards here at RPM. And then two, just general OSHA safety training we need to get out of the way. And then we need to get just skill level stuff that we have for them. So we know that, okay, here you go. But I agree. I mean, we're starting to venture into those small class trainings where we can hold to teach them, because it's funny, like Avery and I probably can patch. We probably haven't patched the wall in a while, but we can go out there and still do it because we got that training when we're on site. A lot of guys don't know how to do that. They have no clue. A lot of guys don't know how to paint, and they're maintenance supervisors. They have no clue how to properly paint, how to cut in without putting tape. You get that right angle brush, man, you can cut in real quickly. You don't need no tape on the sides, but we're just from a time when that was taught. Now we have to get back to the basics and teach these new team members that basic stuff that they can use it and go. So training is key right now. That's the only way we're going to change things, is training.
I love that. So who's going to come and give me like a tutorial so I can paint my apartment?
I mean, Sherwin Williams, you can cut in from there, get you a good angle brush, and just keep your hand nice and steady, and you straight. So.
Okay, we'll talk. We'll talk, Kerwin. But yeah, no, training sounds like it's definitely, and these aren't even like what you're talking about, Kerwin. And you too, Avery, but like painting, drywall, like we're not really even getting into like super technical skills, right?
No.
Like
How to
this
do a
is
proper make ready. I mean, It sounds elementary to us. We can probably go do it, but they don't really understand. Follow that sheet. Put your hand, go from left all the way around, to right till you come back to that same point and check every single thing. They don't really comprehend what to do and how to do it. So training is where that's what we work on constantly.
I love that.
Avery?
I love that you said that. Turns. I wish. When I started as a grounds person / turn, and every step of the way that I moved up, I believe I had to master. Grounds, turns. Assistant supervisor, being a supervisor. I think the time now. I know it's not your question, but just to elaborate on it, I think we have heard it in the industry with skill set, right? And I think we have moved to promote people too quickly, because they have a trait. Maybe they are HVAC certified and they are master HVAC, and they're like, oh, great, okay, we can teach you to be a supervisor. In some cases you can, but it's the fundamentals. Now we don't have no HVAC problems, but our turns is horrible because they never did turns. So I wish we can go back to the step first. Come be a grounds person. Come be a turn person for 6 months or a year. Master that before you move to the next step. Master being an assistant supervisor. Master being a supervisor. You can't teach someone if you haven't done it. And I just think we got away from that.
No, 100%. If I was in church, I would say, "Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead."
Preach, Avery.
Preach. Look, look, he hit it on the nail right there. It's just we went away from that. We went away from really instilling that. Hey, you have to understand that skill set before you can move on. You have to master it before you can move on. And we want to promote people because we're struggling. And this person, but now what happens when you promote that person in that position they're not ready for? 6 months down the line, that person done quit or we don't let them go, and it's unfortunate because you had a great attitude person, but then you put them in a position that they're going to fail, unfortunately, because they just don't have the skill set. And it happens time and time and time again. And if we can just slow down and say, hey, if we can train you, master this before you move on to this. That's something we're trying to develop here. It's like before you move on from a porter to a make ready, you got to master how being a porter is first. And then you got to take the associated classes of a make ready so you know when you're stepping in, you understand what you're doing. So it's all about just constantly training and teaching and moving up, man. So
Wow,
Absolutely.
this is a great point that you're both really just driving home. But especially Avery, when you said that, someone who's very specialized in a particular area, right? Just thinking about like that's all you would be focusing on, right? You'll think, okay, this person is HVAC certified. They have this really technical skill, and that's super important. But then, what about the less technical skills, right? How are they in that? And that's where you'll see, like you said, you might see you're struggling or, things are suffering in other areas, right? Despite this, the highly skilled person who's able to like, do this and close out these tickets just related to that particular area. I think that's really important. That's a really important distinction.
No one has never moved into apartment complex and said I'm quitting because my HVAC unit, or I'm leaving or moving out rather because my HVAC unit don't work. They move out because a turn is not turned right, and think about it as far as people coming in, it don't take a skill set to look in the apartment and tell something is wrong. And that's what I try to tell my teams. Like it's attention to detail, but it's the effort to really go about the checklist. Like Kerwin said, go over your checklist and go over an apartment, because what we know as residents is how we all, survive, right? That's our livelihood. People moving
yep.
to our community. So when they move in and they see one thing wrong, something simple as a broken blind or a door stopper, they're going to look for more, right? They're going to like, oh, okay, this is that simple is not right. Let me go look in the bathroom. And once they have that experience, it's hard to save them because now it's ruined. Now they want to move. You got to give them concessions, and it's not a skill set. It's not a skill set. You don't need much skill set to turn a unit. So I just wish, and what I'm trying to you know train and teach the people within my region is to take it serious, because that's the first step. That's the first step of you know graduating to to another position, is to making sure that turn is right.
What I tell people quickly, what I tell them is like, imagine if your mama or grandma was moving into that apartment and going to live at this community. How would you how would you present this to her? Or, how would you do that? And typically we're gonna take care of our grandma or mom, right? So we're
Right.
gonna make sure everything all copacetic, everything correct, like it's supposed to. So if you do that every single time, you're not gonna let something short, because like again, Avery said it right, when somebody moves into their apartment, that's their home, that's their place they're gonna be at for the next at least 12 months. At least. So if it starts off rocky, man. It takes the act of, I would say, Congress to even turn that ship around to to get them on back on your side. So why don't you just do it right? So when they come in, it's all about that experience walking in the door. That place looks clean, smells clean, and everything is fixed. Oh, they're gonna be happy residents. They're gonna speak to you. But if it's not, you're going to get that ear. They're gonna be in the office carrying and fussing. It's gonna be so much, and we don't want that for 12 months. So we might as well just take the time, do it right the first way. First impressions matter. It does matter, and you can't change that when somebody
Absolutely.
walks into the house. So
Yes, first impressions, and also taking that mindset of like your grandmother or your mother, right? You would not do you wouldn't want to do a sloppy job, or you wouldn't want to like do it quickly. You would really want to make sure you do it right because you just know, right? Just the expectation. And I think that's, it's really like you're both driving that home, like, there's an expectation that this, needs to be done well. Everything does, right? So it's really important, um how you kind of show up there, and not only even just with the residents, but even with the operations teams and leasing teams as well, right? So Avery, how do you coach your techs on just communication and professionalism, especially if they're dealing with a difficult situation?
Try to try to get them to understand that they are supervisors. They are important just as well as the manager. They are co-pilots to this ship. Many times where a resident complain or emails has been sent out from corporate, the manager 9 times out of 10 is always the one who responds. So I try to get them to understand, like, hey, your manager don't typically know, how to explain, why we need a plumber, or why we need to call HVAC someone, people out. If you're uncomfortable with emailing, because I can tell you, back in my assistant supervisor days, I wasn't the best at emailing. I was emailing like I spoke. So just getting that experience to correct that, I grew. So I understand how some of them feel. So I try to teach them on that level of professionalism. Hey, when you email, making sure that you send these emails correctly, because you don't never know who's going to see it. You might think you send it to your manager, who may forward it up to someone in corporate. Always be, accountable. If something goes on with a resident, follow up. It does not need an office to follow up with a resident. If they're complaining, most times they just want to be heard. Go over there, let them speak, let them get their frustration out. It's not personal. And I had to learn that years ago. It's never personal. They might say some personal stuff about you, but it's never personal. They just a customer who's complaining, and look at it as such, and just try to reiterate that in my trainings. I try to reiterate that every time I have my training, the beginning of it. Hey, I'm not seeing enough emails coming from y'all. I'm not seeing enough responses coming from y'all. When the last time you guys dealt with a resident that had a problem, and so I try to prompt that, instill that support in them, that hey, I got your back. You know what I mean? As long as you do what you're supposed to do, I have your back. And just try to instill that support in them, as far as let them know, that it's okay to take a lead sometimes of handling situations.
What about you, Kerwin? Do you have anything to add?
uh No, I agree. Again, I said the twins, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, we're not quite like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, but we same height. So Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. I would say no. He's right. I mean, guys shy away from the computer. Like I said, I got a corporate bunch of maintenance supervisors on my team that I told them I had to translate them from their mindset of the tool was, the drills and all that to the computer is their tool now. So they have to be more professional with their emails and really understand because, we tend to write how we speak sometimes. And, some of the guys, I want guys to be comfortable in their own skin, but I was like, okay, you got to clean that up, but it's the same thing for the maintenance guys on site. It's like, getting them the emails. We struggle with that. We struggle because as you see, clocking in, everything is on the computer now. All our training's on the computer. So we got to get them comfortable like they are. Hey, go replace the toilet. Just as comfortable as replacing the toilet, we got to get them comfortable with the computer and the applications of the computer and sending emails. But communicating with residents is the key, man. At the end of the day, like I said, the maintenance guys probably interact with residents more than the office do, because they see them on a daily basis. They're in their homes. Because think about it. Here, everybody pays their rent by online. They put the work orders in online. So what reason are they really going to the office for? They're really not. So they're seeing the maintenance guy in the parking lot. They're seeing him in their homes. If you're a good maintenance guy, when I was on site, I knew everybody. I knew what time they came home. I knew my name. We conversate. We talk what we do on the weekend. Build that rapport. So once you build that rapport, you tend to get less. If they are frustrated, they'll be like, hey, man, what's going on here? They will have a conversation with you. They won't be yelling at you. And Avery's right. When they are yelling at you, it's not personal. They just want their stuff fixed. At the end of the day, we're in Texas, Florida, Phoenix. Man, it's 100 and some degrees and AC ain't working. I'll be hot too. I want my AC work. But communicate that back and forth. And I would say 99% of the people are reasonable. They understand, they have no problem with you once you communicate back and forth. And we got to get used to really communicating with the residents.
Right. No, this really great points from both of you just about that. It's being professional and being accountable, right? Like Avery, you mentioned that accountability, like you really try to tell them, like, just like they want to be heard, right? And so be accountable if something has gone wrong, right? It's not, I think, and you didn't use this word, but maybe like don't be defensive, right? Even when they're kind of, as they're complaining and saying all these personal things to you.
I don't think Amy probably like me. I didn't get too much of that because the height kind of intimidate people, so they kind of
right.
Yeah, so you have that going for you. I guess
Yeah.
I guess at 6'8", you probably had less personal things said to you.
Yeah. No, there wasn't much personal. I just said apologize. We'll get it fixed right now. That's it.
That's what they want to hear, right?
Yeah.
And that's good enough. But yeah, you don't know who's going to read that email, right? I mean, it may not just be the resident, right? So thinking about that too, and being, I guess almost intentional just in, in how you're writing those emails and communicating with and handling, the feedback, whether it's like, negative or if something's gone wrong, just really being intentional and careful about what your response is, right? But always keeping it professional. So thank you. That's really, really solid advice. I just want to bring in technology as we're talking about, using emails and sending emails and relying on the computer as like one of the tools now. Thinking about AI and more, digital tools, has anything really made like a significant difference for either of you?
Well, we're not there yet. We've been looking on the maintenance software for a while now. We kind of honed down to Yardi IQ right now, so we're working with that. I think that's going to help the teams on site because they'll be able to do everything off their phone, from unit inspections to work orders to even my corporate team doing their inspections. So if we do find a deficiency on site, we can also automatically put in a work order that would translate over the team. So to asset preservation, tracking assets. So Where we're headed down that, and it does have an AI component in there. Not really sure how it's going to work, but the AI should be able to assist and help. Just communicating back and forth with the residents. Hey, when somebody's coming to the apartment, or if they want to communicate, hey, how can I help you, and just get further. So we're still working through it, trying to figure out how. But I mean, we're headed that path. I mean, we're all in the just technology phase. I mean, we can't run from it. It's going to be a part of the maintenance guys. So that's where really pushing the guys to really be comfortable in the computer, and just operating through a computer and sending emails, Excel, the whole suite of Office suite of products that they have. We really got to train the guys in that atmosphere. So again, I keep saying training, but that's just the reality. They do everything online. I mean, ordering everything, even to what ordering flooring now, we're pushing them to go through our marketplace to do that. HD Supply, they do that through online. It's, the ways of picking up the phone and calling, like probably Avery and I did that plentiful of times back in our day. It's gone. So we're trying to make it ease of use, to make sure that the guys can do everything from their smartphone and just speed up. It'll be a little more efficient, and it can speed up time. But then for us in corporate, we can have oversight and see what we can quickly pull up on a property or a host of properties and say, okay, where are you guys at? Why are you guys trending high? Why are you not? Why are your make ready's high? Why this? So it'll give us, I think it'll be more efficient. Just it's going to take time to train the teams on it and get them comfortable with it.
Avery, what about you?
I mean, I agree with Kerwin. I think, we're not there yet, but it's coming fast. I believe that, with the AI, it's going to improve a lot of even necessarily skill set. I have some guys that call me and be like, hey, I was able to fix this thing. I put it in the AI and it told me where where to look. And I'm like, okay, because I didn't have AI, when I was on the site, so I just think it's more or less it's going to, in the next, I would say, few years, is going to be heavily involved in what we do day to day, and I think it's going to be a plus. What we do day to day, even with simple as emailing, which is I think they can use that now. Just a matter of them not being scared to use it because it's technology, and technology has taken over.
Right. And I think it's great because you're both, at that point where you're training them in just these other skills, right? There are, some like different buckets of skills is what, we've talked about, like the basics, the foundational skills, and then the more technical skills, and then now computer skills and digital skills, right? That, learning to email and write emails and make sure they're professional. That's, you need to be trained on that, right? But it's preparing them then for, as we get more advanced with technology, as Kerwin, you said you're working toward that, you're going down that path so that when that comes and when we have AI now and they really have to just, have to be able to know how to kind of navigate that. So as we start to wrap up here, one thing that you both think, the industry should focus on.
That's a lot. Let me think. I would say one thing. I've always been the champion. I'm a maintenance champion. I mean, I've been on site. To me, it's the acknowledging that the maintenance teams are a huge, huge asset to the on-sites. We cannot do what we run these properties, do what we do without the maintenance team. I'm sorry. I'm a champion. My company knows that. I say it all the time. Because it feels like it's the same old. I hear it. Oh, I love my maintenance team, and then your actions dictate something different. That's we can't run these sites. Again, COVID has proven we can shut an entire office down and have nobody in the office, but we still need the maintenance guys out there. We gotta really, really say what we preach, and if we're gonna treat them fairly and understand that they're a huge asset for the sites, for us doing our job, that we actually do that. We give them the training, we pay them the right way. We give them the right experience, we let them grow. Because you get it, unfortunately, Avery probably sees that we have old mentalities. Oh, I'm gonna tell them what to do and this, and this. And then no, we got to change our mindset how we treat the maintenance guys because we can't run its properties. You see how all our good sites have great maintenance guys working on there. And then when you notice, you have good communities that are really treating them the right way they need to. The ones that where we struggle, you see the same things over and over again. And then what happens? Clients get mad. They get frustrated with us. So I would say it's just really, really say what we're going to do. Understand how huge a maintenance staff is on your site. And we have to back that up with the training and giving them the right experience and treating them the way they need to be treated. It's like, it's, yeah, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a maintenance champion through and through. It's just one of the, just give them, I would say it's just giving them respect that is due,
Okay, respect and valuing them and really changing your mindset, right? And making sure that you do value them.
100%. You got, that's the word I was finding. I couldn't find.
Good advice. Good advice. Avery, can you top that?
Hey, I'm gonna go back to what Kerwin said. I think that's important. I think it's needed. I think our maintenance people are the backbones of our industry. What he said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it well. I just think, we need to show them that, they are the backbone, give them the respect they deserve. I know the pay has came up a lot, continue to pay them, because I think our industry, I think our maintenance is a dying skill set. You know what I mean? Most people don't want to come do labor. They don't want to take call 24/7.
Oh,
That's a lot. You know what I mean? To ask someone to do that, So I think, to just be able to give them incentive, make it fun for them. Think of, different ideas to keep that spark up because we need them, and especially in our position, we're not on site. We always on call, as we know, but we're not their daily basis, doing the things that they do. So I just need them to understand that and, know that, we champion them, like Kerwin said.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you. All right. So as we wrap up, I really, really, really enjoyed just, this conversation. I really, really have enjoyed it. It's been great. Just hearing from you both and hearing your perspectives. And just, how you're approaching certain like your challenges and then where you're seeing ways to really develop your teams and to intentionally really be trying to retain them, right? Like you're passionate about the industry and you're passionate about maintenance and to really hear how you're trying to impart that also in your teams, right? So that, eventually one day they can, they'll be at your level. They'll be the maintenance director. They'll be the VP. So I love that. I love that. My last question for you both is, and Avery, I'll ask you to go take this one first. What's a piece of advice that you find yourself coming back to again and again in your work?
It's gonna sound funny because Kerwin said it earlier. Back to basics, back to basics, just, don't get away from doing the basic, curb appeal, making sure you actually use the checklist. I know we all have done it many years and think we know so much, but use the checklist the way it should be used. Go back to greeting your residents, waving, smiling. Putting door tags on the door when you're in their home, giving them respect. Not going in rooms that doors are shut. Just being able to go back to the actual basic. Come to work on time. Take your hour lunch. Be honorable. You know what I mean? Always do things if people are always looking. Come to work, go home. Have a hard day's worth of work. That's my advice that I would say.
Good advice. Good advice. Corinne, what about you?
Again, here we go, agreeing on every doggone
Do I
thing.
know what you're going to say already?
It's the same thing, like I'll even add on to what Avery just said. Tuck in your doggone shirt into your pants. Pull up your pants. Wear a belt. When you're painting, don't wear the same clothes you're painting. You're always on display. Think about it. I tell the maintenance guys here, When you're painting, have an old shirt that you're wearing when you're painting. Buy the coveralls. Don't have paint all over your clothes. When you leave home, you're going to the grocery store. You're representing the company name that you're wearing at that particular time. So, people look at that and you look terrible. Why would they want to live in a community with that company name on it? Because of that, the maintenance guy coming to my house, and then make sure your hygiene is right. I'm being real. Back to basics. Maintenance is an exciting but monotonous job. At the same time, you do the same thing every day, and then something pop off, and you hop off and go do that, and you come back to the same monotony that you were doing before. You have to do the same thing every day for you to be successful, and that's basic. Grounds, everything up, all the way up. So once you do that, oh, you're gonna be successful.
All right. So you definitely are in sync. I mean, is it like a 6-8 thing?
It's a 6-8.
Must be, yeah.
It must be. No, it's good maintenance guys. When I talk to a bunch of people around the country, we all think the same way. We're old school cloth, but I think as we get new, this new age, people think it changes. No, it's like everything else. You have to have those basics first before you can evolve and move on. And it doesn't change no matter where we go. It's the same thing. I can go to Virginia Beach where Avery's at right now and walk properties, and every maintenance guy should be doing the same thing. First thing in the morning, you go pick up the grounds. That's just rule of thumb, man. If you're not doing that, then something's wrong. So
We've covered so much, and I really, really want to thank you both. I think what stood out to me, the most is just there's so many things that that leaders have to kind of think about, and all of these things come back to training, right? Which is something you both really emphasized, that training really needs to encompass a lot. And I think as you both like alluded to, it's like the valuing of your teams, combined with the training, I think is, what really the formula that you're both using to kind of to help like boost your retention and to really keep your teams thriving. You gave listeners a lot to think about when it comes to supporting and developing teams. And so a lot of ideas and strategies, which I think that listeners really can apply. So thank you for sharing your experiences. And I mean, I'm not 6'8", but I feel like I am just after this. So but yeah, I really, really appreciate you both coming on, and thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you for having us.
thank you for having us.
Okay, and thank you listeners for joining and for watching this episode or for listening, and we'll see you next time. That's all for this episode of Management Diaries. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again. Remember to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you don't miss an episode.